Pay attention to the ammo count in these clips. This is the final form of Perfect Paradox. We're at, I think, the third iteration of this weapon now, and there's no doubt that this version is the superior version to all the other ones, but it might also have just risen to the top of the best performing shotguns in the game. Let's take a look. So shotguns, they're kind of in a bad spot right now. They've been in a bad spot for a while. Slug shotguns, they're pretty good, you know, but if you're using a legendary shotgun, it's probably for a 1-2 punch melee build. Other than that, I don't really see people strictly using pellet shotguns for things like boss damage or even in general play. But there's one thing that really makes this version of Perfect Paradox the perfected version, and possibly makes it better than a lot of our other shotguns currently in the game, and that is the origin trait, Cast No Shadows. Now, to sum up what this origin trait does, you basically never have to manually reload. So look, when we punch this guy, it will load 2 shots into the mag from the reserve. But this thing works in a very interesting way. It's a lot better than you might think. Basically, there seems to be no limit or cooldown on how quickly you can activate the trait. So if you're using something like Consecration that attacks in a wave and then there's a follow-up, you can possibly fill up your entire magazine in just one melee. I found Smoke Bomb to be very effective at this. Each tick will activate the trait, and one Smoke Bomb on an enemy that can survive it is actually going to be able to fill up your entire mag. Threaded Spike on Hunter is also great at filling up the mag, and you know, when I was testing this out in a somewhat controlled environment, these melees, you know, they could sometimes be a little bit finicky. The trait wouldn't activate for whatever reason, but in actual gameplay, you're gonna find yourself never having to reload. That's how good this thing is, especially if you're running a build that revolves around melees. Incinerator Snap on Warlock, another great melee for this, in and out of Song of Flame. There are some melees that straight up just don't work with this. Some that I found were Withering Blade and Penumbral Blast, and I know they're ranged, but other ranged melees do work, like Shield Throw and Arcane Needle, so that's definitely strange. I don't know if that's how it works or if it's something that needs to be fixed, but yeah. So normally with Perfect Paradox, you can go up to 8 in the mag, whether it be through backup mag or magazine perks, but in a lot of the clips here, you see me going up to 16, and that's thanks to a mod in the artifact, Saint's Inspiration. Melee damage will overflow the magazine. So if you're running Perfect Paradox, or any of the other weapons with Cast No Shadows this season, make sure you're running this artifact mod. When I saw Cast No Shadows on Perfect Paradox and learned what it did, my immediate interest went into pairing this thing with Trench Barrel. Let me show you why. So normally with Trench Barrel, which is a 50% damage increase, the rotation you want to do is melee, shoot 3 shots, melee again, and then you do this until you run out of ammo in the mag. Now when that happens, you normally melee, shoot, reload, shoot, and you just do that for the rest of the damage phase or whatever you're doing. But with Cast No Shadows, it essentially removes the reloading step altogether. So I'm curious how this is going to affect our damage. So we're going to be testing how much damage you can do in 10 seconds and then compare some different shotguns, and I'm not going to be using the artifact mod just to future-proof the test. So we melee to proc Trench Barrel, and the timer starts when we begin shooting. And we're going to be able to get off 15 shots in 10 seconds. Based on the damage on this guy, each pellet does 3,843 damage with Trench Barrel. 12 pellets in one shot, so 46,116 damage in one shot. Over the 10 seconds, 15 shots, this would be 691,740 damage. If you want to include melee damage, I'll use the base melee damage on this guy, which is 8,685, and we got off 5 melees in 10 seconds, so we'll add on 43,425 damage to the total, resulting in 735,165 damage in 10 seconds with Trench Barrel and Cast No Shadows. Compared to the amount of damage you can do in 10 seconds with a rapid fire Trench Barrel shotgun without Cast No Shadows, I could only get off 12 shots in this case. Now, since this weapon until its return is Strand, it's doing less damage than Perfect Paradox. I calculated it to be about 14% less damage, but we'll just be using the Perfect Paradox numbers for the case of this test. So it ends up being 553,392 damage from shooting, and adding on the melees, the total is 579,447. And as we can see, this is a pretty big difference in damage. Now, I know other rapid fire frames can get perks to increase the magazine or extend the magazine like Overflow, but on Perfect Paradox, you don't need to waste a perk slot on this bonus. You can instead run something like Pugilist for extra melee energy, great for melee builds, Threat Detector for increased handling, Field Prep for just more ammo in the reserves, which is always nice, or even Dual Loader, which loads 2 rounds into the magazine when you reload. I think it might be 3 when it's enhanced, I'm not sure on that, but I don't think that's going to be necessary for this weapon specifically because we're obviously going to be reloading all the time with Cast No Shadows. Now, I did a couple more comparisons, one with Heritage using Reconstruction and Recombination, another with Supercluster using Reconstruction and Enhanced Surrounded, with both slugs using Assault Mag, and finally I tested Until Its Return using Overflow and Surrounded, both enhanced, and for this test I'm using the actual numbers of Until Its Return. I don't want to waste your time going through each individual weapon, so I have the info up on the screen, and these are the results for the new tests. So we can take away from this that rapid fire shotguns with trench barrel are normally pretty low in terms of damage, but Cast No Shadows allows Perfect Paradox to compete with some of the best damage shotguns in the game. Now, will this really change anything? I don't think so. If you're using a shotgun, it's still likely going to be for 1-2 punch just to enhance those melee builds, but you know, not everyone wants to be using 1-2 punch all the time. So if we're talking about trench barrel, I do think the best shotgun to use trench barrel on is the Perfect Paradox. But we can then ask the question, does Cast No Shadows make Perfect Paradox the best shotgun for 1-2 punch? For me, the answer is yes. Now, in the past, my go-to 1-2 punch shotgun was Swordbreaker from Crota's End, and you know, that's still a really good shotgun with a really awesome origin trait in Curse Thrall, but I just think a perk combo like Pugilist, where you get 20% melee energy per kill, and when that's enhanced, it's 22%, plus 1-2 punch, in addition to never having to reload thanks to Cast No Shadows, I think this makes Perfect Paradox the perfect shotgun for melee builds. The gameplay loop just feels right, it feels good, the weapon is quick, and it's definitely my go-to from now on. And you know, this could turn into a whole discussion about buffing shotguns in general, because in reality, why use one over something like a rocket sidearm, for example, or you know, they've just been overshadowed outside of 1-2 punch, of course, but that discussion is for another day. So go ahead and get your hands on the Perfect Paradox. I just opened the engrams that cost 1 at Failsafe just because I couldn't bother to go collect Bufo Bites for the specimen quest or do Enigma Protocol. This is probably a better option because you can get 4 perks on 1 weapon. I managed to snag a pretty good trench barrel roll with Threat Detector and Pugilist. None with 1-2 punch yet, but hopefully I can get that soon. And that's pretty much all I have to say about Perfect Paradox. It's finally back, it's the perfected version, and I do truly think it's one of the best shotguns in the game, but just in general, Hellish shotguns need a buff so that they're useful outside of 1-2 punch. Hope you all enjoyed. My name is Dub, and have a good day.